This episode I'm going to give the mast some finish. After last episode's planning, I give the mast some sanding. To strengthen the joint between the upper part of the mast and the lower part of the mast, I'm going to use some aluminium. I cut out the mast pattern out of the aluminium sheet. Then I make the holes I need for joining the two pieces together with the aluminium rods. Prepare for glass fiber lamination with spreading out glass fiber. I stretch a glass fiber cloth using some masking tape. This is to reduce risk of bubbles in the finished laminate. I also use thickened epoxy for the same reason, to reduce the amount of bubbles in a laminate. The thickened epoxy sticks better to the rounded surface, and thereby it's less risk that the laminate is left dry. After preparing about 1/3 of the mast with thickened epoxy, I turn the cloth over. After curing overnight, I can continue with the next part of the mast. I turn the cloth back and prepare another layer of epoxy. In an earlier episode you saw me prepare some aluminium rods that I'm going to use for joining the two pieces of the mast together. I anchor these two rods in the mast with thickened epoxy. I fill out the holes with thickened epoxy and then I put the rods in. This is going to be the receiving hose for some rods coming down from the upper part of the mast. After curing overnight, I can continue with the next part of the mast. I turn the cloth back and prepare another layer of epoxy. I take care smoothing out the cloth before I put on more epoxy. When all bubbles are taken care of, I can put on some more epoxy. After curing, it's only the area around the rope channel that is left. I remove the masking tape. Take out the aluminium rods from the receiving holes. And cut the area clear. Before I can proceed with the thicker layer of epoxy, I need to sand off the surface a bit so I get a good contact with the next layer. prep a surface for the aluminium sheet. I cover the holes with masking tape and then I put on a layer of thickened epoxy. I use some glass fiber to make a good bond and make sure that the epoxy doesn't escape through the gap. Make sure that the holes fit before I put it in place. And take care of the area around the rope channel. After curing, I can cut away the excess glass fiber. Now I can put on the final coat of epoxy. This is the last layer I put on before I sand it down before the painting. Of course I have to turn the mast over a couple of times before all the sides are covered with epoxy. As the temperature is getting a bit lower on the outside, I need to use a heater to raise the temperature up to about 20 degrees, where the epoxy cures best.